You know that feeling when you're lying in bed at night, exhausted, scrolling through another self-help article, another transformational framework, another promise that this will be the system that finally fixes you. And there's this quiet voice, so quiet you've learned to ignore it, that whispers, "When does it end? When do I get to just be?" But you silence it, because stopping feels dangerous. Because you've spent so long becoming someone better that you've forgotten how to simply be someone. You are an expert at transformation. You've read the books, done the shadow work, tracked your habits, rewired your beliefs. You can articulate your attachment style, name your triggers, explain your childhood wounds with clinical precision. You've become fluent in the language of healing. And yet, here's the thing nobody tells you: you are so tired. Because somewhere along the way, self-transformation stopped being a tool and became an identity. It stopped being a path toward wholeness and became proof of your fundamental brokenness. Every new version of yourself is evidence that the last version wasn't enough. Every breakthrough is shadowed by the question, but what's wrong with me now? This is the paradox at the heart of self-transformation. The thing that saved you, your ability to adapt, to grow, to become, is now the very thing preventing you from ever arriving. You've become addicted to the journey because the destination terrifies you. Because if you ever stopped transforming, you'd have to face the question you've been running from your entire life. What if the person I am right now, without any more work, is already enough? And that question, it feels like death. Let's name what's actually happening here. In psychological terms, you're experiencing what's called compulsive self-optimization, a maladaptive coping mechanism where the pursuit of self-improvement becomes a defense against vulnerability, rest, and authentic self-acceptance. It's the nervous system's brilliant, exhausting solution to a core developmental wound. I must constantly prove my worth through transformation because my inherent existence was never enough. Think of it like this. Imagine a tree that, as a sapling, learned that it would only receive water and sunlight when it grew new branches. So it grew and grew, desperately producing new limbs, new leaves, never resting. Eventually, the tree becomes so top-heavy, so overextended that its roots, the part that actually sustains it, begin to wither. The tree doesn't realize that it was always worthy of nourishment. It just learned that becoming was the price of survival. This pattern is rooted in what attachment researchers call conditional regard, the implicit or explicit message that love, safety, and belonging are earned through performance, achievement, or perpetual growth. Psychologist Carl Rogers identified this as one of the most damaging developmental experiences. When a child learns that their authentic self is insufficient, they construct a false self, a version of themselves designed to meet external standards of worthiness. Here's where it gets neurologically fascinating. Your brain's default mode network, the neural system responsible for self-referential thinking and identity construction, becomes hyperactive in individuals with this pattern. Neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer's research on addiction shows that the DMN creates what he calls selfing, the compulsive story-making about who you are, who you should be, and how you're failing. For the compulsive self-transformer, the DMN is constantly running a comparison algorithm. Present self versus ideal self. And the ideal self always wins. It has to. Because the moment you arrive, the goalpost moves. This creates a state of perpetual psychological limbo. You're simultaneously proud of your growth and ashamed that you still need to grow. You celebrate breakthroughs while immediately scanning for the next wound to heal. Your nervous system never gets the signal that you've reached safety because safety, in your world, is conditional upon never stopping. Philosophically, you're trapped in what Soren Kierkegaard called the sickness unto death, not physical death, but the despair of the self that cannot accept itself. You are in constant flight from your own being, using transformation as the escape route. The cruel irony is that no amount of becoming will ever satisfy you. Because what you're actually seeking isn't a better version of yourself. It's permission to stop running. Let's talk about what this actually costs you. Not in terms of time or money spent on courses and therapy, though that's real, but the invisible soul-deep price you pay every single day. You have sacrificed the ability to rest in your own existence. Every moment of stillness feels like stagnation. Every period without a new goal, a new identity project, a new healing modality feels like you're wasting your potential. You've internalized the belief that your value is measured by your trajectory, not your presence. So you can never just be at dinner with friends, you're analyzing your communication patterns. You can never enjoy a quiet Sunday, you're guilty about not being productive, not optimizing, not growing. There's a specific kind of grief here that our culture doesn't have language for. The grief of never meeting yourself. You've become so skilled at shedding skins, at upgrading versions, that you've lost contact with the continuous thread of you beneath all the transformation. Who were you before you decided you needed fixing? What did you love before you turned everything into a self-improvement project? You don't remember. Because that person, the unpolished, unoptimized version, was deemed unacceptable so long ago that they've become a ghost. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But for you, becoming who you truly are feels impossible, because you've convinced yourself that who you truly are is fundamentally insufficient. So you keep reaching for the next version, the healed version, the transformed version, never realizing that all these versions are just elaborate disguises for the self you've abandoned. Here's the philosophical weight. You are living in what the existentialists called bad faith, a state of self-deception where you deny your freedom to simply be by hiding behind endless projects of self-creation. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that we are condemned to be free, meaning we are radically responsible for defining ourselves. But you've turned that freedom into a prison. You've interpreted becoming as a mandate rather than a choice. And in doing so, you've made transformation compulsory, stripping it of its liberating potential. The core fear underneath all of this, the terror of ordinariness. The fear that if you stop striving, stop transforming, stop proving, you will be revealed as unremarkable, average, forgettable. And in a culture that worships exceptionalism, ordinariness feels like annihilation. So you keep building, keep becoming, keep transforming, not towards something, but away from the unbearable possibility that you might be enough exactly as you are. This is what makes transformation addictive. It's not about the destination. It's about never having to arrive. So what does this actually look like in your adult life? How does this pattern show up in ways you've probably never connected before? You might be someone who experiences intense discomfort with success. When you achieve a goal, there's a brief moment of satisfaction, immediately followed by emptiness. You don't celebrate, you're already scanning for the next mountain to climb. Your colleagues see ambition, you feel like you're running from something. Because you are. You're running from the moment when you'd have to stop and ask, now what, who am I without the pursuit? You might become an adult who unconsciously sabotages stability. Just when life gets good, a relationship is solid, job is fulfilling, finances are stable, you feel a strange restlessness. You pick fights or quit jobs or create problems that require you to, once again, transform. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar patterns. But for you, the familiar pattern isn't drama, it's incompleteness. Stability feels dangerous because if nothing is broken, you have no purpose. You might be someone who collects identities like armor. Entrepreneur, healer, minimalist, stoic. Each new identity feels like the answer, and for a while it gives you structure. But eventually, it becomes another costume that doesn't quite fit. You don't realize that you're not searching for the right identity, you're searching for permission to stop searching. You're looking for a self solid enough that it doesn't require constant renovation. You might find that your relationships feel transactional. You're drawn to partners and friends who also prioritize growth, who speak the language of healing and consciousness. But beneath the conscious connection, there's an unconscious dynamic. We are both projects. You don't know how to love someone or be loved without the framework of mutual improvement. Intimacy without an agenda feels vulnerable, purposeless. So you turn love into a workshop and wonder why it feels lonely. You might experience what I call spiritual materialism of the self. Tibetan Buddhist teacher Chögyam Trungpa warned against using spirituality as ego decoration. But you've gone further. You've turned your entire identity into a curated collection of healing modalities, psychological insights, and transformational frameworks. You can perform deep self-awareness. You can articulate your wounds with eloquence. But you can't sit with yourself in silence without feeling like you should be doing something about who you are. You might be someone who feels profound exhaustion that no amount of rest fixes. Because it's not physical tiredness, it's the bone-deep fatigue of a nervous system that never receives the signal. You are safe now, you can stop. You've been holding your breath, clenching your muscles, vigilantly monitoring yourself for so long that your body forgot what relaxation feels like. You're tired of yourself not because you're broken, but because you've made being yourself a full-time job. Here's what you need to understand. These are not personality traits. These are coping strategies. They are the brilliant, adaptive responses of a younger self who learned that transformation equals safety, that becoming equals love, that standing still equals abandonment. The path forward isn't more transformation. It's recognition. It's witnessing the pattern without judgment and asking, what was I protecting myself from by never letting myself arrive? The answer, almost always, is the fear that if you stopped becoming, you'd discover you were never broken in the first place. And if you were never broken, then all this suffering, all this striving, all this endless self-improvement might have been unnecessary. And that realization can feel like the loss of everything you've built your identity upon. But here's the truth. You are not a project. You are a person, and the work now isn't to create a better version of yourself. It's to meet the version that already exists. So how do you heal from the addiction to transformation? How do you step off the treadmill of perpetual becoming without feeling like you're giving up on yourself? It starts with a radical act. Permission to be ordinary. Not mediocre, not stagnant, but ordinary in the most profound sense. Fully present in the unremarkable moments of your existence without needing them to mean something or prove something. It means sitting with your morning coffee without it being a mindfulness practice. It means having a conversation without analyzing your attachment style. It means experiencing a Sunday afternoon without guilt that you're not optimizing it. The healing practice here is what psychologists call unconditional positive self-regard. The ability to hold yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a child without the requirement of improvement. This is where inner child reparenting becomes essential, not as another self-improvement technique, but as a practice of meeting the younger self who learned that love was conditional upon becoming. You speak to that part of you and say, "You were always enough, your existence was never the problem, you can rest now." Another crucial practice is what Carl Jung called shadow integration, but not in the way it's often taught. This isn't about finding more things to fix. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you exiled in the name of transformation. The lazy part, the unmotivated part, the part that doesn't want to grow. These aren't obstacles to healing, they are the resistance of your authentic self, fighting for survival against the tyranny of perpetual self-improvement. You must also practice intentional incompletion. Start projects and don't finish them. Set goals and then abandon them. Not out of self-sabotage, but as an experiment. Can I still be worthy if I don't complete everything I start? The answer, terrifyingly and liberatingly, is yes. Here's the deeper truth. True transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before you decided you needed fixing. It's an unbecoming, a shedding of all the strategies and identities and frameworks you've layered onto yourself in the desperate attempt to be acceptable. It's the recognition that the self you've been searching for through endless transformation was never lost. It was just buried under the weight of your efforts to improve it. Psychologist James Hollis writes, "The task is not to seek love, but to find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." The same is true for self-acceptance. You don't need to transform yourself into someone worthy of love and rest. You need to dismantle the barriers, the beliefs, the compulsions, the identities that convinced you that you weren't already worthy. The goal isn't to stop growing. Growth is natural, organic, inevitable when you're actually living rather than constantly renovating yourself. The goal is to stop using growth as a defense mechanism against your own existence. To let growth be a result of living fully, not a prerequisite for living at all. You are not a before picture waiting for an after. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a human being, beautifully imperfect, already whole, worthy of rest and love and belonging, exactly as you are right now in this moment without one more breakthrough or transformation. The work now is not to become. The work is to be. To meet yourself, not the healed version, not the future version, not the optimized version, but this version right here, right now. The one who is tired. The one who is scared. The one who has been running for so long that they've forgotten what they were running toward. Stop. Breathe. Arrive. You are already home. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs permission to stop transforming and start living. Subscribe if you want more essays exploring the hidden psychology of our deepest patterns. And remember, the goal isn't to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. And you're already closer than you think.